Thanks for watching Your Plates Are Mine, where you don't have to be a professional chef to be a star in your own kitchen. I'm your host, David Miller, and I'd like to invite you to spend a little time with us as we meet some great new friends who are going to show us how to make something incredible you're going to want to make at home. We're here at the Sugar Suite in Maitland, Florida, just outside of Orlando. Jennifer Mancino's been nice enough to invite us in, and she is going to show us
how to make red velvet cake.
How to make red velvet cake. Now, this isn't just anybody who's going to teach us how to make red velvet cake. Jennifer is an award-winning luxury cake designer. Is that the right word?
Ooh, I like that, yeah.
So we're going to have some really great stuff for you today. But first, I want to know a little bit more about the business. How did you decide you want to be a cake designer?
Well, pretty much. I told my husband one day I want to make wedding cakes, and he said, I think you maybe should make one before you decide that. So I made a wedding cake in my living room and took 1,000 pictures of it, and sure enough, 2 months later, I got my first order. So
nice.
Yeah, that was in January 2010, and then January 2009, and then by January 2010, we were looking for our own space.
Nice. So
yeah.
It's been a lot of action in a short period of time.
It has, yeah. It's been a lot of action, yeah. And we don't even advertise or anything. It's just referrals.
Really?
Yeah, referrals on Facebook.
Wow.
So that's gotten us all our business.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Great. Okay, what is Luxury Cake Market?
Luxury Cake Market is a lot of flowers, hyper custom. So
All
it's
right.
not just something you can pick out of a book. It's something that from start to finish is 100% personal, and you know, the style of it reflects the style of the bride and groom.
Okay, so this isn't cookie cutter stuff. This is you design to order custom cakes.
Yeah, they're very personal, and they're designed, and of course they taste yummy too.
Yeah, well,
so.
that's always the important part. And now, is this just weddings, or is this other special events, birthdays, and things like that?
Yeah, we do. We do some custom cakes as well. So a lot of groom's cakes. We do a lot of cupcakes as well. So we sell
cupcakes.
a ton of cupcakes because they're a little simpler, and you know, if people just want a yummy cupcake, they can order cupcakes.
Okay.
So
Now, what is the hot trend in custom cakes, wedding cakes, things like that?
actually, dessert bars. So we're
Dessert
seeing a
bars?
lot more dessert bars. Yeah, with just cool desserts. Not everyone is crazy about cakes, so they can have like brownie pops and lemon bars, and we even did some mini apple pies recently.
Oh, neat.
So they're just little tiny little bites, and to complement the wedding cake.
Right.
So, and we should do a little smaller of a wedding cake, and you can customize all of the serviceware. So it's
Great.
nice. Yeah.
Now, talking about cake flavors, what's the hottest or most popular?
Well, we do a lot of red velvet at this
Red
bakery. So, yeah, we do a lot of buttercream wedding cakes, and I think, Southern red velvet and buttercream kind of go together. So,
Well, I'm really glad we're doing that because that happens to be my wife's favorite.
Oh,
So
really?
now I will have a little something that I can do at home.
very nice.
Well, let's do it.
Okay, great. So we're going to start with the dry ingredients. So if you want to go ahead and put 3.5 cups of the all-purpose flour. Here at the bakery, we use cake flour. It's a little harder to come by in your grocery store. It just makes a finer, more even cake. So go ahead.
Right. Now,
3.5.
when you measure, I learned this in one of our other shows, measuring and sifting is important when you're doing a cake. So when you've come up with your recipe, do you measure it here or do you sift it and then measure it?
Oh no, we pour it into the sifter and then sift it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's interesting though. Does that work for some people to do it before?
Well, the key is to be consistent. So if I measure here 3.5, it's going to be different than if I sift it first and then measure 3.5. So kind of the whole idea is whatever you do, stick with that measurement because if you change, it'll be different.
Yeah.
So 3.5.
3.5.
Let me get that right too. Oop. I'm trashing the place. There's 3.
And a half. That looks good.
Okay, 3.5.
Looks like 3.5. And then, go ahead and sift it.
Sift
So
it.
go ahead and shake it out.
All right.
And then this is 1/2 cup of cocoa.
Mm.
So red velvet cakes are a chocolate cake in essence. So they do have about 1/2 cup of cocoa per KitchenAid. So, and then we have some kosher salt. 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt, and this won't fit through our sifter, so I just kind of slide
Shortcut
it in there
around the
underneath.
side.
Yeah. Good job.
Okay.
We've done this before.
It's like making popcorn on the stove.
All right. And
Now,
so
do we need to crush up the little
I
crumbles
do.
or just dump
Yeah,
them? Okay.
I do. I get it all.
Let me use my fancy utensil here.
Yeah. I get it all because you never know when something's gonna, come out when you're putting it in your wet ingredients.
Okay.
So, alrighty.
I'm gonna set
And
that right
then
there.
we have 3 eggs, and it's the whole eggs. We use large eggs at the bakery,
All right.
and we always, as your grandma tells you, crack them into a clear container, and then check the bottom for any kind of shell. So
Right.
even the best of us can get shells in our batter.
All right. Now you've added the eggs to
2.5 cups or 2 1/4 cups of granulated sugar.
Granulated
so just
sugar.
regular sugar.
regular sugar. Now, are you gonna cream that?
Yep. So
Okay.
we'll go ahead and start it. Start it there. And then here we have 2 cups of canola oil.
Okay.
Not vegetable oil. You could substitute it if you're in a pinch, but the canola oil has less flavor, so it's a little bit lighter and brighter of an oil. So it's also heart healthier. So even though we're making cake,
Right. So you
watch
don't
out
want
for
to
the
use
heart.
something like peanut oil or corn oil. Then you have the peanut and corn flavored cake.
Right.
And it's a little,
Ew, or olive oil. Yeah. That would be gross. So we're going to go ahead and let that mix for a little bit.
Okay.
And one of the secrets that I'm going to share with you
yes.
that we use at our bakery is pudding. So we put a little bit of chocolate pudding, about half of a instant pudding container. So this is what? How many ounces
6.5
is this?
servings.
So 6 ounces, so about 3 ounces. But if you get the cook and serve kind, it doesn't quite work out as well. So you need the instant pudding.
Instant pudding.
So, and I added at this stage instead of with my dry ingredients because I want it to already constitute and become even before we add the dry ingredients.
Okay.
Or else it'll become clumpy. So,
See that? It is important the order that you put stuff together
it
sometimes.
is. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very, very important. So we're going to wait until this gets nice and even. And one of the reasons that we use pudding is so that it stays moisture, but it also acts as a preservative in the cake.
Really?
So yeah, so it helps the cake not to age quite as quickly and keeps it really moist. So.
All right. Well, I hate dry cakes, so this is awesome. Now, could I use that in just about any cake recipe? This is an add-on to a regular recipe?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So we use, vanilla pudding in our vanilla cakes. And yeah,
Nice. I love these little
tip.
tips.
So good. So we're going to let that come together.
Okay.
And then next, we're going to add in the red food coloring. So this is about 1/4 cup. And about 1.5 teaspoons of the vanilla extract.
Now, we've been creaming the eggs and the sugar, the vanilla, and the food color. Right. And it's okay to let that run a little while?
Yeah, it can run before you put the flour in. It can run.
Before the flour.
Yeah.
Right.
Once the flour goes in, you really got to time it. It has to be, you have to mix it enough to where it starts to form, the structure of the cake starts to form. But if you let it go too long, then you can have a really kind of hard, tough cake. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the wheat flour will form gluten if you mix it too much. Then you're making chewy bread instead of cake. So.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. So now we have, we're going to add our buttermilk and our dry ingredients at the same time.
All right.
It's a little dance. You kind of have to have a little bit of this and then a little bit of that. Because if you add too much of the dry ingredients, it'll go everywhere. And then too much of this, then it'll get wet. The batter will get wet. So
Did we get all these already?
That's last.
Last, okay.
Yeah, that's
just
the
checking.
secret.
See, you're the pro. All right.
So yeah, so you go ahead and do that side, and then I'll start adding it over here.
Just keep going, or a little at a time?
Yeah, you go for it.
All right. Try not to get it all over the table.
All right, so we're gonna let this mix for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Here at the bakery, we time it to make sure that it's exactly 5 minutes, so that it's very even. So
Okay.
we're gonna let that go, and while that's going, We have a special. What's special about this this exact recipe is the type of chemistry that we use in it. So it's 2.5 teaspoons of white vinegar.
I thought I smelled vinegar.
Yeah, and then 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And when you add them to each other, it's sort of you remember that science experiment
You get
in
the
4th
fizz.
grade? So yeah, the volcano. So that's exactly what these are. So you want to get it in there, get it nice and nice and even, and then we're going to add this to our batter.
You could call that red velvet volcano cake.
Hey,
There you go.
there
Little
we
marketing
go.
idea.
So we'll just add that in as well.
And that's what gives the cake the lift and the lightness, right?
Yeah, it gives it a
Okay.
kind of a special, a special consistency. So yeah, it's super light because it's sort of activating right now, and then when it
Right.
gets into the oven, the baking soda will continue to activate.
Right.
So, yeah, so
That's neat. I mean, cooking really is a lot of chemistry,
yeah,
but
yeah, exactly, especially baking. And how we line our pans here at the bakery is we have parchment that we put at the very bottom, and then we use a baking spray around the edges.
But the parchment, that's really the trick to getting it out of the pan so it doesn't stick and break.
Exactly, yeah, and exactly. And we even, kind of crease the edges of it so that it makes a really, really crisp 90-degree angle so that when it pops out, it has, that perfect
It's pretty much
wedding
ready to
cake.
go. You don't have to trim them.
Yeah,
An
exactly.
even better trick.
Yeah, there you go. This one recipe will make 2 8-inch rounds.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and pour them. It's about 1 inch to 1.5 inches that it should fill it. And whatever we do, we just want to make sure there's the same amount in both, in both pans, because they're going to spend the same amount of time in the oven.
Oven?
Oven. Yep, into the oven.
Okay, now at home, is it 325 as well or 350?
Yeah, we bake
Okay.
everything at 325.
All right.
So yeah, at 350 it'll get done faster. It'll take a little bit longer. At 325 and in a convection oven it'll take longer. But I think it's a better result.
All right,
Yeah.
let's put them in.
All right, let's go.